Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Wellspring, whether you're here in person with us or in Zoom land. My name is Terry Conator, and I'm so delighted that you're here today. Some announcements to start out here. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to say the date. This is Sunday, August the 22nd, 2021. Early Birds, as you probably all know, meets on Sunday mornings at 9:30 via Zoom. The link is in the weekly email as well as on our website. I want to let you know that next week we will have 2 inspirational videos on healing, one by Joe Dispenza and the other by Deepak Chopra. Our upcoming speakers for September: on the 5th will be Randy Granger, on the 12th will be Reverend Kamatara, on the 19th will be Dr. Edward Burlbaw, and on the 26th, it's still to be determined. Want to let you know that our office hours have changed. It's now going to be open on Thursday from 9 to 12. So don't come on Friday. And lastly, know that our prayer team remains ready to serve and support you. You may submit a request via our webpage, or you may contact Martha Ward or Geneva Collins personally with your request. Our prayer team meets virtually on Tuesday afternoons at 4:15 to pray with you. You may consider sitting in your space, quiet space, during that time and joining in. We all know that we are one in spirit. And the energy, doggy talk. We all know that we are one in spirit, and the energy of prayer knows no limits. Now for our invocation. Please get comfortable in your chair. Maybe close your eyes, put your feet on the floor, whatever you feel you would like to do. As we come together today, we affirm and accept Spirit is in this very place at this very moment. We know that Spirit is omnipresent and flows in, through, and around each of us at all times. As we feel this presence, we also acknowledge that we are a piece and a part of that same Spirit, with all the qualities of Spirit, including joy, peace, and love, with the greatest of these, love. We are grateful for this understanding and this actuality, and so it is. Thank you, God. Please stand now, if you are able, and join us in singing the Song of Joy, which is Top of the World.
My mind.
Thank you, Edwin and Barry. That was lovely. Okay, so please be seated if you haven't sat down already. And join me now reciting our vision, mission, and affirmation statements. Our vision: to celebrate consciousness in our world. Our mission: to support individual spiritual quests through celebration, study, counsel, loving fellowship, and service. And our affirmation: I am aware of all the good that is within and around me. Good flows through me and out into the world, touching all with whom I interact. I recognize my divine center and know that this divinity exists in all that is. I am grateful for the creative power within me and allow it to flow and shape my experiences. Now, please sit quietly in your chair and listen to special music by Karen Drucker.
She howls, she bites, she wants to take me down with all of her might. She snarls, she growls, but now I'm ready to put up a fight. I've been in therapy for 100 years, and there's a peace that I finally found. I've let go of so many fears, and she is not gonna kick me around. I'm taming my inner critic. You're not welcome here anymore. I'm taming my inner critic. Allow me to kick you out the door. She kvetches, she complains. Her demands make me feel so insane. Every detail of my life is analyzed and sliced up with her knife. But I'm woman, just watch me roar with a force that she can't ignore. Every positive word I say gives me the power to chase her away. I'm taming my inner critic. You're not gonna win at this game. I'm taming my inner critic. If this is how you spend your days, you should feel ashamed. My inner critic. From now on I win and you lose. I'm taming my inner critic. You know the truth. You are like so yesterday's news. But she says, you know, you're not very smart. Don't even try. You're gonna fail. And I say I am enough. But she says you shouldn't eat that donut. Are you gaining weight? And is that another wrinkle? I say I am beautiful. She says, you know, you're not really that good or talented. Why don't you just play it safe? I am worthy. I say get off, get back. It's now, it's time to claim this life as mine. I'm taming my inner critic. You have no power over me. I'm taming my inner critic. Knowing my worth has finally set me free. So back off.
Well, if y'all aren't jazzed up by now, you might as well just leave. That was awesome. Whoever picked that out, yay. I loved it. Okay, so now I would like to share a special reading with you. Let me see here where I am. Okay. This is the reading I'd like to share with you today is from To You, Love God. It's by Will Bowen. And I use this as a sort of guide thing almost every morning. There's one for every day, and it just keeps going, so it's not dated only by the month. And I ran across this, and I just thought it might be perfect today to fit in with Edward's theme. So this is To You from God. You struggle to obtain your desires, while your soul sits comfortably smiling atop a mountain of abundance. You grit your teeth and endure someone you find challenging, while your soul marvels at and loves this person. You cling doggedly to what you know to be right, while your soul glides along knowing there is no right and wrong, only perspectives. You regret what has happened, while your soul gives thanks for everything because it has brought you to where you are. You fear tomorrow, while your soul dances joyously from scene to scene in this unscripted, award-winning play that is your life. You doubt and fear, but your soul rests in absolute certainty and unshakable confidence. You think that you are what you see in the mirror, the roles that you play, and the things that you do. But in truth, my awakening child, you are, always have been, and always will be an abundant, enlightened, unshakable soul. Love God. And now I will turn our service over to Dr. Edward Burlbaw. Thank you, Edward.
Well, good morning. Apparently I'm not quite totally together today, but now I am. So that's past tense. Today's topic, I vary between two phrasing of it, but it's you are your greatest ally. And since we've already had some discussion about this today, first thing I want to do is define who's this you, or who's this that we are speaking about when we say you. Now, I think in the reading, the you, who is your greatest ally, the first you is your soul. Okay, let's just get that clear. And, you know, in Early Birds, we're reading the book, The Untethered Soul. Some of you have seen this book many times and have participated in Early Birds as well. He talks about, or asks the question, who are you, or who am I? And ultimately he says, I am the person behind everything, observing what is going on. And many of us call that person our soul or our higher self. And in reality, that's the real you. Because, you know, we have this expression in our philosophy, we say, I am a spiritual being having a human experience. All the human qualities, all the human foibles that are going on are just part of the soul's experience here in Earth School. So that was a fantastic and rousing piece of music that Judy picked. And I would say that the inner critic that's being spoken of in that song is not your soul. Right? That's the monkey mind or what have you. And so even though in a sense it sounds like maybe the mind is taming the inner critic, what's really happening is that the soul, the real you, capital Y, is directing this taming. So I want to talk first, as we kind of set this up today, about being our our greatest ally, and talk about addictions, because it's easy to kind of build this theme from that. And, you know, I don't know if any of you have smoked. I smoked for a day and found I didn't like it. But those of you who have smoked and kicked the habit, you know it was possibly a little difficult to do. And so what I'm going to say is appropriate for, say, kicking the habit of smoking, but it's can be done with anything else. So if you're trying to break your addiction, you know, you've gone all day, or you've gone usually an hour, and you haven't had a cigarette, and you're really craving one, but you don't, you're out. So the next thing you do is you go bum one off your friends, right? So I'm going to say it may seem rather impossible to not have that cigarette. You remember the old joke, it's easy to quit smoking. I've done it 100 times. So now you go and you bum a cigarette off of somebody and you get it up to your mouth and you're about to click your Bic. And they say, oh, by the way, in addition to the Surgeon General's warning on this cigarette, these are laced with arsenic and a single puff will kill you. Oh, never mind. And suddenly you don't want a cigarette. Maybe you'd pass it up. I doubt with that kind of a warning you would smoke it. So in that situation, you are stronger than your addiction. But in the normal run of the mill every day, when you feel the need for a cigarette, you get it out and you take it. So what's the difference between those two scenarios? And I think the same is true for any other kind of addiction, be it alcohol or food. And we could create a scenario in which you would be able to refuse a drink or a chocolate brownie, something like that. Just think about it. You can probably come up with something that would do it for you. It would probably have to be adverse enough that, or averse enough, I should say, that you wouldn't take the drink or eat the brownie. So just know that you could probably do that if you want it. Well, I'm thinking we could do that. But the point is that under the right circumstances, your will is very strong. So then, why do we eat the brownie, or take the drink, or smoke a cigarette? You know, you've probably heard folks who are trying to kick the habit. It's like, well, I just don't have the willpower for it. I just, whatever. Some of us have, probably all of us have heard of aversion therapy. You know, that's where you create a stimulus which is, well, might make us sick every time we think about that, whatever it is we're trying to kick, the habit we're trying to kick, the cigarettes or the drink or what have you. And I think that in the example I gave above, aversion is what we were using there. And I want to throw in a side note here because I was going to school at New Mexico Tech, and the professor there is the fellow who invented the nicotine patch, by the way. And he was doing research in aversion, flavor aversion, so that, we already know what aversion is, but he was thinking that if you associated a harmless flavor with something that created nausea, one would tend to avoid the flavor, right? Whatever that was. So anyway, he was using liquid nicotine, and he accidentally spilled some of this on his arm. And within a few minutes, he was dizzy, nauseated, and unable to stand. So the nicotine had been absorbed through his skin. All right. I guess this is a little like people describe their first experience with cigarettes as well. I was nauseated, I felt sick, all those things, and your buddies all said, don't worry, it'll go away. You'll feel better. So anyway, And we all know that the transdermal patch is usually something folks will turn to quit smoking. But anyway, back to the main topic. So if our will is strong, why do we seem to fail at so many of the endeavors that we attempt? What's the missing ingredient? Do any of you have any ideas of what ingredient might be missing that seems to make will not strong enough to kick a habit or to do something? This is audience participation if you choose to. All right, I won't put anybody on the spot. Possibly. Okay, yeah. Motivation, somebody said. Fear, regret, somebody else said. Your soul, okay. Needing to listen to a different voice. Yeah. So let's, before we talk directly about those, let's put some of this in a new thought context. And you remember our oft used phrase, change your thinking, change your life. Right? Which, by the way, just saying, is Bethman's third axiom. Hint, hint. Well, I think we frequently think about this statement as a remedy for something that's going wrong, or something that's not quite right in our life. It might go like this: I guess I better change my thinking because this situation isn't that great. And maybe we use some stronger words than that, and then I know none of us do this, but if you were judgmental, you might look at someone else and say, their life is down the tubes. They need to change their thinking. Like I said, none of us do that. So the examples I've used above are mostly related to what I would call being pushed in a new direction. We don't like where we're at, or we don't like the external circumstances that are the way we find ourselves, and they create us or cause us to want to change a direction in our life. So that's aversion. Again, what if we were to create a scenario in which reward would be pulling us? Now, we all have heard of the carrot and the stick, right? Well, the stick is aversion and carrot is attraction, if you will. So what might motivate us that's greater than any joy we experience from our addiction? And I'll give a couple of examples. Maybe money. How about I'll give you $1 million if you can lose, put the number there, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 10, more than 5 though, pounds, and keep it off for the next year. I'll give you $1 million for that. Well, and maybe money doesn't appeal to you, but I have an elixir that I've got from the fountain of youth. And if you can do whatever I described, I will give this to you at the end of the year. And it'll knock 10 years off your life. So maybe that's something that motivates you. But in either case, given the appropriate incentive, don't you think that any of us would probably figure out a way to make it happen? You know, we'd be counting our calories down to the single digits. We'd be exercising. We'd find a personal trainer. We'd be all over this because we wanted that thing. And in our philosophy, we talk about attraction rather than aversion. So if we know that if what you focus on, you get more of. So if we want to recast everything, rather than saying, I want to lose 50 pounds, we would say, I want a healthy, trim body at my ideal weight. Maybe something like that, right? And I think probably most of us are familiar with the concept of the dream board, where you take pictures of everything you want in your life and you put it on a board and you look at that every day and so forth. But sometimes even this doesn't work. How many of you have had the dream boards that didn't come true? Yeah. So what I want to talk about now is the force behind the will that brings the will into alignment and creates the energy to get things done. And that is intention. And in the more common dictionary definition of intention, is generally viewed as a certain kind of determination propelling one to succeed at all costs by never giving up on an inner picture. In this view, an attitude that combines hard work with an undying drive toward excellence is the way to succeed. However, we want to view or define intention a little differently today. Carlos Castaneda says, "Intent is a force that exists in the universe. When sorcerers," and I interrupt here, sorcerers, those who live of the source. When sorcerers beckon intent, or call it forth, it comes to them and sets up the path for attainment, which means that sorcerers always accomplish what they set out to do. So I say that again. Those who live of the source always accomplish what they set out to do. Maybe rephrasing that. Those who remain connected to the divine flow always accomplish what they set out to do. And maybe we have a few other ways we could phrase this that might fit into a little different paradigm. Those who live connected with their inner spiritual being always accomplish what they set out to do. And maybe borrowing from the Course in Miracles, those who extend love always accomplish what they set out to do. So let's go back to the basics a little bit here. And according to Ernest Holmes, I believe he's written this, he says that our purpose on earth is to gain soul experience. You've heard me say that before, and you've read that in Ernest Holmes as well. I don't want to minimize what Ernest Holmes says here, but however, it seems a little vague and kind of vanilla to me. You know, our purpose is to gain soul experience. Well, what does that mean? You know, no matter what I do, I'm gaining soul experience. So, I mean, yeah, what did I accomplish there, right? But how about if I do that more intentionally and more of a carpe diem attitude? I'm here to gain soul experience. I mean, I'm claiming it as opposed to, well, that's the way it is. So now what can I do on a daily basis to set the intention for gaining soul experience? How about waking up every morning and say, today I intend to take advantage of every spiritual growth opportunity that comes my way. That's kind of scary. What if something really huge comes my way? Well, guess what? Who is attracting that or setting into motion this really huge thing? Yes, you. And that's with a capital Y, by the way. And why are we doing that? Or why is this appearing right now? Because you, capital Y, are ready for it, and you, capital Y, have all the tools to deal with it. Now, what's so scary about that really huge thing? If you want to be really closely connected to your soul, why not attract something really big into your experience to grow from? But let's do it by intention rather than as a coping mechanism for the uncomfortable things that life seems to foist on us. I might add that that second attitude is really a victim consciousness. Somehow external things are being impressed on us and we have to deal with them. No, that's not the way we work. Or is it? That's not how we roll? I don't know. So, and once you set this intention, then you have so many tools in your toolbox, so many assets to call upon. So first of all, you, with a capital Y again, are connected to spirit. We say this, but do we feel it? Do we believe it? You are a piece and a part of spirit, God, the divine source, whatever your favorite name is for the omni-consciousness. There's no situation that's larger than God. And there's no place that God is not, to use one of the little phrases. Just make the connection and keep it open. Now, how do you make that connection? I think 2 weeks ago, the topic was, when nothing is working, do nothing. Remember that? Have we been practicing doing nothing? Now, I have to say that I typically had not been a strong proponent, if you will, of meditation. But I think meditation is a good definition for the correct type of doing nothing, if there is such a thing as correct. Right? So the other day I was having a session and I had a couple of questions of the nature, what should I do about this or what should I do about that? And I was, asking these questions. And the answer came, why are you asking us? You already know the answer. Well, I'm not sure I really liked that answer. I was hoping that someone else would tell me what to do to, solve all these things, but it wasn't to be. So you already know the answer. So I'm going to say the same thing to you. What's your question? You already know the answer. Just do nothing and listen. Now I want to talk about current events for a moment, but before I get into that, I want to read just a couple sentences from the book we're studying in Early Birds. That says, no expansion or evolution can take place without change, and periods of change are not always comfortable. Change involves challenging what is familiar to us and daring to question our traditional needs for safety, comfort, and control. This is often perceived as a painful experience. So what I want to talk about, and I really have no intention of this being anything political. So if you read that into it, I apologize. That's not my intention. Let's talk about Afghanistan. And, to give a benefit of the doubt, who really knows what's going on there? But it seems a bit like a mess. But let's just talk about one piece of that, and this is the situation with the women. Now it appears that the women are now being subjugated by the men. And we look at that, we know there's killings, we know there's women putting into slavery and so forth. How can we see any good in what is happening there? And that's not a statement, in a sense, that's a question. So I'm going to take my artistic license here and I'm going to make some stuff up. So bear with me. So as I just read about higher vibrations, we know that the earth is raising its vibratory frequency. And that is putting pressure on everybody and everything that doesn't want to change. But change is inevitable. No question about it. So I'm going to make this assumption that equality of all people under God is a correct statement. Having any group be second class is not that. Now, have you ever used these canned biscuits? You kind of break the seal and you whap it on the side of the counter and it goes poof, and you've got, a dozen biscuits kind of right there. Well, how about trying to put those biscuits back in the tube? Any of you tried that? No way, right? No way. Okay, so let's talk about the women here in Afghanistan. So for the last 20 years, as my understanding is, women have had relative freedom and equality compared to prior to that. Do you really think that that trend can be reversed easily? It's like putting those biscuits back in the can. So I'm just, again, making stuff up. But if the women were to band together, stand up to the Taliban, those guys might go whimpering back to mama. Kind of like what happens to bullies when someone stands up to them. And I'm not giving advice as to what to do, but I'm just saying that's one possible scenario that could bring good from these events. Something very dire looking could be changed into a situation that's much more equal for all. And I thought about that, and this would be an internal transformation of that country. It would come from within. It wouldn't be some outside force saying you must do such and such, right? And we know that. Have you ever tried to change somebody? Oh, never, right? Never, yeah. We try so hard to impress our will on somebody because we know what's good for them. And there was that expression, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So I think our experience has been that you can't make them. Sharon's laughing, I don't know why. You can't make them think the way you want them to think. But if they change their mind, so to speak, for themselves, it sticks. Have you ever noticed that part of it too? So I don't know. I was just trying to do an analogy there and just saying this internal turmoil may very well come out to be something that's so much better than anything that an external army could have impressed on them. So let's kind of wrap up today's topic. And I said, you are your greatest gift. And I'm going to say you're your greatest gift both to yourself and to the universe. Without you, the universe wouldn't be the same. And if we imagine the universe as this interconnected web of consciousnesses, multidimensional consciousnesses or souls, every node is a person, there's a soul. If you take one out, that perfect web now has maybe a flaw in it, or an absence in it, perhaps I should call it that. And that's the web where you and you and you and me belong. We belong in the web, and we have our own particular place in that. I'd say every other part of the web, and I'm going to call it the UWW, the Universe Wide Web, every part of that, or the entire UWW, is dependent on you and also is supporting you. So you're both integral part of it and a useful part of the UWW. And this is multidimensional, of course, but let's think of a maybe simple three-dimensional example. Some of you may have played as kids or as teachers with the kids. You get everybody underneath the parachute. And then you're lifting up the parachute and keeping it off the ground and so forth. Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but if you stand next to a really tall person, you don't have to do much. Right? All right. So do you realize that every one of you is a really tall person in the spiritual realm? And that as you lift up this parachute, you lift the burden off of others. Can you accept that mission? So I say our mission, our goal in life, our intention should be to lift ourselves as high as we can so that we can ease the way for others. And if we look at our, let's see, do we have it here? Our affirmation, or our mission statement, right? Anybody remember what our mission statement is? To support others' spiritual quest, right?
Yes, to support.
Yes, okay. So that's a mission as a community, and we participate in that. But I'd say my mission is to support others' spiritual quest by pursuing mine. So let's go out and be our own unique, magnificent expressions of God. And so it is. So we're going to have a little prayer now. So you're welcome to sit in your chair and relax. And let's just, as we always start, we know that God is all there is. Source is all there is. Spirit is all there is. And if we want to think about that as this web I spoke of earlier, this web extends in infinite directions. Not just the 3 or the 4 or the 5 or the 10 directions or dimensions we can think about, but it extends everywhere to every place and everyone. And in a sense, just like sand on the seashore or drops of water in the ocean, each node in this web makes up the larger web, is a piece and a part of the larger spirit, source, divinity. So we just acknowledge and affirm that that's the case, that each and every one of us are part of that. Each and every one of us have within us all the strength, all the joy, all the peace, all the love, all the power of that oneness. That is who we are. That's with a capital W. We are a part of that. And so as we're here and we're feeling this, we allow that energy to grow and build. We just know that it reaches out much beyond the walls of this building and much beyond this Zoom meeting. We intentionally extend this energy out to our friends and family, other community members who may not be here, community members that may be struggling with health issues or issues of any kind. It doesn't matter. We know that this energy, this spirit, extends out and supports each of them. We also take this energy and we intentionally see it on the Afghanistan. We see it there. We know that our perception is not God's perception. God sees that as perfection. It's already unfolding toward perfection. It is also part of God. It is not separate from God. So now, as we hold this for ourselves and for all these others we mentioned, we give thanks that this is part of our philosophy. We give thanks that from this understanding we take comfort, we take energy, we take strength. And we know that the power of the prayer is such that as we take this and we place it into the mind of God, we release it, we turn it over to Spirit, to God, to Source. It's Source's job now. We've done our part. So we release it, and we say, and so it is. Now, oh my gosh, we have some music. And I understand, well, I won't say that. But we've added a couple of verses to this song to kind of change perspective, perhaps. Thank you, Judy and Barry.
And in terms of Afghanistan, as long as McDonald's remains in Kabul, the Taliban really hasn't won. Think about that. Okay. How can anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? You're connected to your soul. How could you have ever believed you were anything less than beautiful? How could you yourself have told you you were less than whole? How could you have failed to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to your soul. How could I have ever told myself I was anything less than beautiful? How could I have ever told myself I was less than whole? How could I have failed to notice that by loving me is a miracle? How deeply I'm connected to my soul. How deeply you're connected to your soul. How deeply we're connected to our soul.
Thank you, Judy and Barry. And Edward, let's give Edward and Judy and Barry another hand, please. Okay. As we acknowledge and receive our virtual and in-person gifts, we give great thanks for the offerings already given and those that we will be receiving, because we know that giving and receiving are both part of the one flow. We affirm that we are also part of that flow. We bless these gifts and know that they are multiplied throughout our community. As we know, there are a number of folks who have contributed to the production of this service. We bless you and we thank you. We are grateful for you today. And thank you for everyone here in person and on Zoom for being with us today in this Holy Union. Stay around and Zoom and visit with each other, or please come over to the social hall and have some goodies and coffee and community. Please stand now and read the benediction with me and sing our peace song. Thank you. Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature and flow through us into the world. And so it is.